My name is Lila Hartman, and the day my grandfather found me sleeping on a thin gym mat inside a crowded charity shelter was the day my entire life split into before and after. The summer heat in Phoenix was unbearable, the kind that sticks to your skin and makes even breathing feel heavy. And I had been volunteering at the disaster relief camp for nearly 3 weeks straight after a massive apartment fire left dozens of families with nowhere to go, including me. I was handing out water bottles when a man in a perfectly pressed navy suit stepped through the shelter doors, completely out of place among the folding tables and cardboard boxes. At first, I didn't recognize him. He just stood there staring at me like he had seen a ghost. Then his face went pale, his hands started shaking, and he whispered my name like he was afraid I might disappear. "Lila?" he said softly. I froze. No one said my name like that anymore. I slowly looked up, and when our eyes met, I felt my chest tighten. It was him, my grandfather, William Hartman, the billionaire real estate mogul whose face was always in business magazines, the man I had not seen since I was 11 years old. He walked toward me in disbelief, eyes scanning my worn clothes, my volunteer badge, the shelter around us. "What are you doing here?" he asked quietly. Before I could answer, a volunteer called out that we were running low on blankets, and I instinctively turned to help, like this was just another normal day. But when I turned back, he was still there, staring at me, like his world had cracked open. "Lila," he said again, voice breaking, "where is the trust fund your mother and I set up for you?" My stomach dropped. "What trust fund?" I asked. The color drained from his face. And in that moment, I realized something enormous had been stolen from me, something worth millions. If you've ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect you, the ones who smiled at you while taking everything behind your back, stay with me, because what happened next uncovered a lie that lasted over a decade. To understand how I ended up homeless while millions were supposedly in my name, you have to go back to when I was 7 years old, when my mother died in a car accident coming home from work. My grandfather offered to raise me himself, but my father had already remarried a woman named Sandra and insisted I stay with them so I could have a normal childhood. Grandpa agreed, but he didn't walk away. He created a trust fund in my name, $3 million that would grow over time, meant to pay for my education, housing, healthcare, and future. Sandra was appointed my legal guardian after my father passed away suddenly 2 years later from a heart attack. After that, she raised me alongside her biological son, Trevor. From the outside, we looked like a normal family, but inside, the favoritism was impossible to miss. Trevor always had new clothes, gaming systems, private tutors, and vacations. I worked part-time jobs starting at 14 to pay for school supplies and bus passes. Sandra always said money was tight and that I needed to learn responsibility. I believed her. I thought we were struggling. I never questioned it. Meanwhile, my grandfather was depositing money every single month into that trust fund, convinced I was being cared for. By the time I graduated high school, Sandra told me there was no money for college, so I worked double shifts at a diner and enrolled part-time at a community college. When the apartment fire destroyed everything I owned, she didn't offer to help. She told me I was an adult now and needed to figure it out. That's how I ended up at the shelter, volunteering during the day and sleeping there at night. Back at the camp, my grandfather pulled me aside into a quiet hallway, his hands trembling as he showed me bank statements on his phone, monthly deposits going back 12 years, hundreds of thousands, then millions. "This was for you," he said, "every penny." I felt dizzy. "I've never seen any of this," I whispered. His jaw clenched. Right there, he called his attorney and ordered a full financial investigation. Over the next few days, the truth unraveled slowly and painfully. The trust fund had been drained over the years through household expenses, educational costs, and family travel. Except every payment went toward Trevor's private school, luxury cars registered in Sandra's name, designer shopping sprees, and lavish vacations I was never invited to. My grandfather sat beside me in his hotel room as the evidence stacked higher and higher, his face growing darker with every page. "She stole your life," he said quietly. Before confronting Sandra, he wanted to be certain. He invited her and Trevor to lunch under the pretense of reconnecting as a family. When they arrived at the upscale restaurant, Sandra played the loving mother role perfectly, asking about my volunteer phase and telling Grandpa how proud she was of my independence. Trevor bragged about his upcoming trip to Europe and the new car Sandra had bought him. My grandfather listened calmly, then slowly slid a folder across the table. "Can you explain where Leela's trust fund went?" he asked. Sandra laughed nervously at first, then she opened the folder and went silent. Bank statements, receipts, school invoices, car purchases, everything. She stammered that the money was used to support the household. My grandfather leaned forward, voice steady but cold. "Then why does every major expense benefit only Trevor?" Trevor's face went pale. Sandra snapped that it wasn't anyone's business, that she deserved compensation for raising me, that the money helped the family. "That money was for my granddaughter's future," Grandpa said, "not your lifestyle." Sandra stood up, causing nearby diners to stare. "You abandoned her," she shouted. "You just threw money and disappeared." "I trusted you," he replied quietly, "and you stole from a child." Right there in the restaurant, he signaled his attorney, who had already contacted authorities. Officers arrived within minutes. Sandra tried to claim misunderstanding. Trevor yelled that it wasn't fair, but the evidence was overwhelming. She was arrested for fraud, embezzlement, and financial abuse of a minor. The court case lasted months. The trust fund transactions were traced meticulously. Millions had been siphoned off. Sandra was convicted on all counts and sentenced to prison, with full restitution ordered through seizure of assets, the house, cars, jewelry, and luxury accounts. Trevor lost everything overnight, and I finally learned what justice felt like. With the recovered funds, my grandfather restored the trust in my name, but more importantly, he brought me home. Not to a mansion filled with strangers, but to a life where I finally felt safe. I enrolled in university full-time. I moved into a small apartment he helped furnish simply because after years of having nothing, I didn't need luxury to feel rich. I needed peace. We started a charity fund together to help teens displaced by disasters, kids like me who fell through the cracks while adults fought over money. Sometimes I think about how close I came to never learning the truth, how easily that money could have vanished forever if my grandfather hadn't walked into that shelter at the exact right moment. And I learned something that day I'll never forget. Being poor isn't always about lack of money. Sometimes it's about having everything stolen quietly by the people who claim to love you. Family isn't who raises you, it's who protects you when it matters. And justice doesn't always come with anger. Sometimes it comes with freedom.